All right. Mm, mm, mm. So, if you're a woman in your 40s, then this video is for you because one of the things that is still very uncommon amongst women in today's day and age is strength training and wanting to have muscle. And in this video, I'm gonna just give you 5 reasons why it is absolutely essential, not just good for you, but essential to really make it a point to incorporate strength training and make it a non negotiable to build muscle. I'm going to begin by sharing with you a quick story before just giving you the reasons. And um, I grew up in a place where strength training and women with muscle is something that's been really frowned upon. Um, Even kind of still in today's day and age, I really do believe that, in the United States and in most countries nowadays, it's at this point in time, strength building and women with muscle, it's no longer like, oh my, this like, factor, like it was about 20 years ago. And, I share this with you because I do believe that there is still this bit of a stigma with regards to building muscle. And really, what I'm going to share with you in this training is like why it is really really important. So, um, when you're watching this, please feel free to drop it in the comments and in the chat. I'd love to know what has your upbringing been with regards to women's strength building and just having muscle in general. I'm curious if I'm the only one who grew up like that, or maybe if in your family it's been this like kind of like don't talk about it, this type thing. So definitely let me know so that I can see if you resonate with that. But first and foremost, um, actually, I'm going to share with you another quick story. This morning at the gym, when I was coaching a class, one of the girls, we normally train with her. She's an absolute beast, like tall, muscular. And recently she started getting into trail running because she has a race coming up. And she was telling us how, because she's ramping up her running, she's like, she's like, I'm gaining so much weight. And I'm like, it's actually no wonder. And earlier at the gym this morning, like a super fit dude was like, he's actually training for an ultra, and is like, some crazy happened. I'm ramping up my training, and turns out I gained 5 pounds last week. So I share this with you because when most women train by really focusing on the cardio piece because it burns calories, but the reality is benefit number one to wanting to have muscle or having more muscle is actually muscle is the most metabolic organ. So basically what I mean by that, even I'm currently sitting down talking to you, and if I have more muscle just by sitting down and talking to you, I'm going to burn more by default. Versus you can train in a way where, like, maybe during your workout, let's take for example that girl that we train with a lot, who has a lot of muscle, and now she is like doing less strength training and a lot more trail running and stuff like that, and all of a sudden she's starting to gain weight. Why? Because our body adapts to external stimulus, right? And when you do a lot of endurance and cardio training, stuff like that, and by the way, don't think that I'm telling you to not do endurance and cardio training, because that's not the case at all. It's really more along the lines of how are you harmonizing it and what is the focus? Because if your muscle cells are the most metabolic, in the sense that whatever you eat, that turns into energy, then the more muscle you have, the easier it will be for your body to convert the food that you're eating into quality energy instead of storing it. Versus, okay, I just did a workout and I burned a shit ton of calories. And because you have less muscle, you're actually being less effective at converting the food that you're eating into energy later on. Okay, so remember this, that like your muscle, the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is by nature. Even if you're laying down, sitting, whether or not you have a sedentary job, it doesn't matter. And this is really important, especially if you are above the age of 40. I mean, most of our community is above the age of 40. Erin's almost 40. I'm getting closer to 40 as well. And every single year above the age of 35, whether we like it or not, us as women, we start to break down muscle and bone tissue. That's just a part of life. So, based on how we live and some of our lifestyle habits, we can delay how fast our muscle tissue and our bone tissue breaks down. And this is really, really important because, yes, in this decade, you can think of it in terms of aesthetics, because if you are leaner and have a little bit more muscle, it's going to help you to look just more defined, more toned, and you're going to look and feel better. But this is especially important as you're heading into like your 50s, your 60s, and your 70s, because at this point in time, this is beyond the aesthetics. We're talking about longevity. Okay, so remember this: more muscle, higher longevity; more muscle, higher metabolism. Whether or not you worked out for 30 minutes today, 45 minutes today, whether or not your job is sedentary. So, yeah, you want to get more out of life, have more muscle. By the way, this is if you happen to live in a household with your husband and you're like, dude, I can't believe how he's able to get away with eating so much more shit. Or if he like changes like one tiny thing with his dad, he's like, oh yeah, I just dropped 5 pounds by doing that. It's because men have more muscle by nature because they have higher testosterone levels. And because of that, their metabolism is a lot higher. And that's why they can get away with so much more than us women can, right? And based on your size, your figure, stuff like that, you may or may not have less room for error. And it's not really asking God, oh my God, like bless me with genetics that allow me to get away with more. That's not the case. It's more the case of what do I get to work on today in order to build myself up for a tomorrow that's going to fire me up. Okay. So that is thing number one with regards to having more muscle. Okay. Thing number two is this is um, really interesting, and I'm learning more and more about it recently. What happens to us on the outside is also what happens to us on the inside. I was having a conversation with a functional medicine doctor the other day, actually. I had her look at my labs and she's like, wow, like you're really healthy. And I was like, yes, awesome. I mean, I'm doing my part. Um, and she said, well, this is great because not only like it looks like your skin's really tight and you look young, but just so you know, whatever, like the sagging that happens on the outside also happens on the inside. And I was like, mind blown. I'm like, wow. So, like, as we age, our internal organs, our vitals, and those of you guys who are like nurses, doctors, you probably know about this on a much deeper level than I do, but like our organs start to sag. And I was like, this is insane. So, A lot of times when women are like, well, I want to look more toned, it requires building more muscle, not just necessarily dropping fat, because the more muscle you're going to have, the more toned your skin is going to look by nature. And that's what creates longevity. So I don't know about you. Every single morning when I wake up, I put on that moisturizer. Yep, I do. My mom told me to start doing that. Like when I was hitting my 30s, she's like, Sarit, you got to start doing it. And I did. And every single night before I go to bed, I put on my moisturizer. Why? Because I mean, I want to look young. Now, the thing is you can go on and put moisturizers on your skin all day long, but if you're not doing the things that are going to help you to keep your shit tight beyond just your face, then your skin is going to look wrinkly at a younger age. And I don't know about you, but I want to look younger, as I get older. So, I mean, I'm doing my part, right? Because your muscle's going to keep your skin tight, which I mean, obviously you've seen photos of people who are super lean and their skin normally looks super tight and they look younger, right? So just like taking care of your face by taking care of your body and building muscle, following lifestyle routines that are helping you to stay lean will also help, the skin around the rest of your body to look younger, especially as we age. And I mean, one thing is for sure, we cannot reverse back time. What we can do is and tomorrow is not guaranteed. What we can do is we can control our todays in order to create better tomorrows. You know what I mean? So just remember that not only is your metabolism going to be higher, also you're going to look younger and your skin's going to feel a lot tighter. Okay. Um, Thing number 3 is, did you know that more people over the age of 60 die from falling down and not being able to get back up? It's wild. More people die from that than they do from cancer. By the way, cancer is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And no one talks about how many adults who fall down over the age of 60 aren't being able to get back up. So you might wonder, okay, well, what does X have to do with Y and Z? So a big part of how our posture looks like and how our posture develops over time. It's like, when older people have that curve in their upper back and like their butt starts to sag, it's called a kyphotic spine. And the reason why that happens is because of lack of muscle and strength in our like entire um, posterior chain. What is our posterior chain? Posterior chain is basically our back muscles and our glutes. So, how do you work on your posture in order to enhance longevity so that, let's say, when you're 65, 70, you happen to fall down, you can trust yourself that you're able to not just get back up, but maybe you can pick something up with you. That requires having a certain amount of muscle. And by the way, you can't just eat and have muscle. You can't just sleep and have muscle. Having muscle is an entire lifestyle, right? You're going to put your muscle under tension, aka that's the training piece. You got to feed yourself in a way that allow your muscles to um, stay and grow and get stronger. That's the nutrition piece. And you got to make your recovery a priority so that your muscles can heal. Okay. So everything that we do throughout the day and also at night actually has a direct impact on how much muscle we have, how fast our muscles deteriorate, or how fast we're able to build muscle. You know what I mean? So, if you want to slow down the rate of aging, it is really important to focus right now on your habits, the movement, the nutrition, the recovery element, in order to really make sure that you're giving your body what it needs. Because no matter what, like I said before, like it or not, when you're at the age of 35, like our muscle density is going to start deteriorating, our bone density is going to start deteriorating. Now, to what extent you want it to deteriorate, and also how big your tank is, will determine how much you'll have in your tank. Basically, what will be the size of your muscle by the time you get to the age of 60. By the way, this is not to poo poo on any running, okay? Because um I love running, and I do hybrid training like at least 5 days a week, which involves endurance, but it's endurance with strength. Um, this is why, if you were to put a side by side of, let's say, like two elite athletes, one is like triathlete, the other one is more of like a someone who does like hybrid or functional training, you're going to see that the triathlete has more of that kyphotic curve. Okay. And their endurance might be great, their heart health might be great, but what's going to happen with like their structure as they get into their 70s and 80s? I share all of this with you because when it comes to our physiology, most people think in terms of days and weeks, and very few people think in terms of years and decades. You know what I mean? And like, if my message to you is, start thinking in long term. Yeah, manipulating 10 pounds, like even when you do it sustainably with like how we help our people, can manipulate 10 pounds in a matter of like 6 to 8 weeks. Now, when it comes to manipulating like muscle density, like as we get older, that is work that like needs to be happening like earlier in life, like in our 30s and 40s. Eventually, it does become too late, because muscle building, like in our 60s and 70s, it's really hard. Like just staying at the same muscle density in your 60s and 70s, that means like you're actually growing, which is wild. So don't take that for granted. I say this so that you can really make it a point to utilize time for your advantage, right? Especially if you're still at a point where you're in your 40s. Like you're now at a great time. It's your prime time. So don't take a single day for granted. Okay? So, higher metabolism, tighter looking skin, longevity through your posterior chain and structure. Okay. Making sure you're able to uphold yourself as we get into those later decades in your life. What you do right now really matters. Okay. Um, Next piece, this is just something that I've experienced in my own life. Like I told you before, like I grew up in a culture where, like women with muscle and strength building, it's like kind of poo-pooed on. And the way that I see it is I got a lot of opportunities in my life because of how I look. Um, it's still kind of rare to, like walk into a store, or it's so funny every time we go through the airport, like Erin and I, we get asked, "Oh, are you training for blah blah blah?" Or, like, what do you do? You look super fit. Did you work out today? People who don't even know us. And I have found that when you look in a certain way that I would say is healthy and attractive, there is that positive feedback loop on a social level. I mean, don't even get me started on the fact that in order for you to like build and maintain lean muscle, it especially if you want to look clean 365 days out of the year, kind of like the way that we do, it requires an extreme level of discipline. Like not even a little bit of discipline. Like it requires an extreme level of discipline. And um the positives of that, of having that level of discipline, it's undeniable. I know it completely changed my life, and this is exactly why I do what I do. This is why we created the movement that we created, because there is so many positive feedback loops that just go alongside that. um I'll tell you, I don't think I would have met Erin had it not been for how I looked. I was invited to this party by this guy. You can call him like a social media influencer, which he is. I'm not going to mention his name. And he knew me because, like when I lived in Jersey, I was known for my abs. So he's like, come to this party. And then I have no idea what I was getting myself into, in the sense that it's like, it was all just a bunch of like the fittest people on earth. And everyone was so good looking. And I felt like I was so out of place. And all of a sudden, like I see this like magnificent woman. She caught my eye and I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, I gotta have it. And I mean, long and behold, we've now been together for 10 years and we have two cute pups. So whether it's new relationships, positive attention, interviews, looking in a certain way that, tells people like, dude, like you look like you're trustworthy, because that shit takes work. Yeah. Or seeming like a positive person to talk to because it's easy to approach with a compliment. I've seen that there have been a lot of social benefits to that. And while there are still some places in the world where it's been poo-pooed on, I mean, for the most part, I believe that the positives really outweigh the negatives. And besides, when you build an extreme level of discipline, there comes a point where you're like, I really don't care what people have to say. It's about like how we feel inside. You know what I mean? And the last thing that I want to share, I don't know what you've been through in your life, or if you've been through maybe some trauma where your life or your loved one's life have been threatened. There is a saying by Mark Ripito that says, strong people are harder to kill and more useful in general. And I couldn't agree more. Number one, when you have more muscle, you're more functional. When you're more functional, you are more useful in general, right? Like, let's say if you were to move a house, would you be more likely to ask your fit friends to help you or your overweight friends? Okay. This is really just, it's a neutral question. I don't know about you. I will most likely ask my fit friends because they can probably do more physically in less time with less effort, right? Um, but the other piece to it is, especially as women, I believe that, we're still a higher target in like dangerous spaces. And the way that I see it is, when you look a certain way, even though you are a woman, you might not look like an easy target, which may be a form of protection. Call me crazy. Why is she even going there? I mean, maybe it's a part of just my upbringing, but I believe it's something that's important to talk about um, when it comes to self protection. So, all that to say, especially if you're in your 40s right now, is your go time, because you still have such a great runway to develop yourself, especially as you get into the later decades of your life. And whether your goal is more towards longevity, or whether it's more towards aesthetics, or whether it's towards performance. um, Having more muscle, it has a direct correlation in all three. So if you take nothing away from this video, my encouragement to you is just make it a point to make strength building a non-negotiable for you, at least um, 3 days per week. Okay. And yeah, I'd love to know from you in the comments, like what are you currently doing for your workouts? And is strength building currently a part of your workouts? And how are you setting yourself up for the later years? And by the way, if you, I mean, I'm sure women in your life were probably on that same age, and whether they've been resistant to strength training or anything like that, just feel free to share with them this video, because education is power, and the more informed we are, the better decisions we can make to truly set ourselves up for success. And it is my own belief that some of the most valuable life skills are not taught in school, health being one of them. So if you find it in your heart and you know someone who will benefit from listening to this, feel free to pass it on to them. And that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'd love to know if there is anything new that you learned. What new thing did you learn? And I'll see you on the next side. Take care. Bye bye. Much love.